Hello and welcome to the first issue of the Rationalist. I'd like to have a discussion with you about America. As you know, America has some problems right now, as any country does, all the time. But I think we've got a lot more great things going for us than people are willing to admit. And we'd like to think we might have some solutions that are novel. And if we can discuss these in a nice, pleasant manner, rationally in other words, without politics, I think we can get somewhere and have some interesting discussions. You know, when I was in college, there was a couple fellows down the hall in the dorm, and they were extremely liberal. One guy was convinced that insurance agencies or insurance companies were the bane of the world, and they caused all the problems in the world. Anyway, he was an intelligent fellow, and we would go down and have discussions with him. And we didn't agree with anything they said. They didn't agree with anything we said. But we'd leave as friends. We'd see each other in the hallways. We'd shake hands. It was not a problem. Today, everybody's on Twitter telling people that, oh, I don't like your opinion, so you're an idiot. And just all types of things like this. There's no courtesy out there, as you know. So we want to make this a rational discussion about what we can do to improve America. And I hope you're willing to help me with that. So let's talk about some of the issues that we see today, and let's have some fun as we do it. So here are some scenes of America. And everyone knows what a beautiful landscape we have in this country. And you know, as the song says, mountains to the beaches, all this kind of thing. It's just gorgeous. So take a look at a few of these images. Probably not anything you haven't seen before, but regardless, these are some of the things we're proud of in America. And then we also want to take a look at the other side. So if you would, let's take a look at a few of these images. And these are things we don't necessarily want to see. The pollution, overcrowding, transportation, garbage disposal, global warming, all these kind of things are issues that you get in any developed country. So let's take a second now and talk about what do all of these issues have in common. Well, really one thing. That's right, you knew it. People. There are too many people in the world. There are too many people in the country. We have about 330 million, some odd, people in this country right now, and I think that's too many. Everybody will have a different number. You all have a different number for what is the right number of people to have in America. But whether I say, I would probably cap us at 300 million. Maybe you say 500 million. Maybe there are some people who say we can take 1 billion people. But if we do, we're going to have a lot more problems than we already do. So all of these things, pollution, overcrowding, transportation, housing, garbage disposal, global warming, they all are caused by people. And the more people you have, the worse these problems are. Do we eliminate these problems by just having less people? No. But you make them a lot easier to deal with. So the first thing is, I think that we need to reduce the amount of people in the country, or if not reduce, because that might be a difficult thing to do, at least limit it to where we are now. So how do you do that? Well, two things. First off, we have a slightly declining population in the United States right now through natural growth. Okay? If we had no immigration at all, our population would slowly continue to go down. So it's immigration that increases it. So here's a phrase for you. Build the wall. Okay, what just happened? Boom, politics. Maybe the wall's a good idea, maybe the wall's a bad idea, but you immediately felt a political leaning left or right based on that. And that's what we need to eliminate. We need to talk rationally about solutions. Is building the wall one of the solutions? Possibly. Certainly every country has to take control of their borders. That's only right. But then, who do you let in? Well, it's very important that we always let in people like Elon Musk. We need entrepreneurs like that. If somebody's going to come to this country, an intelligent person, and start businesses, boy, we want them. So certainly I want to be letting them in. How about on the other end? no matter how automation goes, we're always going to be needing people to help pick our vegetables, as an example. Whether these are Mexicans or other Central Americans, doesn't matter. But you can't just let them flow across unimpeded and stay there. So maybe you give them, as we do now, a temporary visa for 6 months to pick these 4 or 5 crops, whatever it is, and then you go back home. If you don't go back home, we pick you up, kick you out, and you can't come back at all. But we're going to be needing to letting some people in, but we also need to control our population. One of the ways you do that is, tougher border controls. But we need to make sure we're letting in the right type of people, and by that I don't mean race or gender or any of that kind of stuff, or what country they're from. Merely, what are they going to do for this country? We know we'll help them by letting them in, but what are they going to do for us? And if that is starting a company, great, come on in, we want you. All right? And it's hard to say, okay, we're not going to let someone in who doesn't have skills, doesn't have education, doesn't have money, but we do have to do what's best for this country. Now maybe you can take some of those up to a certain threshold. So anyway, we can't solve overpopulation in the world. We might be able to do some things through some non-governmental organizations, but basically every country's on their own on this. We can do things in our own country and limit our growth. So I would like to very much. What benefits do we get on some of these problems? Well, let's just take housing for an example. Think of San Francisco or Seattle. You've got a lot of homeless, and homelessness doesn't have one single cause. But one of the reasons is they can't afford housing. And we're edging toward a point in time where the vast majority of people will have to live in high-rises. I personally believe that every child should grow up with a yard. Every child should have a yard. You may think that's unrealistic, but I don't. It's how all our past generations grew up. But if you're in a high-rise, how are you going to have any appreciation for the great outdoors? And if you don't have an appreciation for the outdoors, why do you care about global warming? Why do you care about saving rainforests? Why do you care about animals? Why do you care about all these things that we need people to care about? You're not going to have an appreciation for nature if you don't grow up with nature. So you need to get in the woods, but you need to have a yard to play in. That's the basics. And we're getting to the point where middle-class people in America cannot afford to live in their own house, especially, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, a lot of other places too, let alone a house that has a yard. I would surely like to see that change. Less people, less demand for housing, lower costs, everybody can have more room to spread out. So I think that would help us all greatly. How about transportation? Having a lot of fun in traffic in Atlanta or Los Angeles or wherever else? We need to do a lot for that. And along those lines, there are a lot of people who live in big cities who say, well, everybody should take public transportation and nobody should have a car. Well, I couldn't disagree more, but I'm not going to call you an idiot. That's your opinion. Let's be rational. Let's say I have 3 children. When they were young, we had car seats for the babies, and we had strollers, and we had playpens, and when we went anywhere, we had to carry so much stuff with us. Well, that's what it's like being a parent. Now tell me that I can only take public transportation. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So if you live in a city and you don't have kids, you're not thinking about the rest of the world. The rest of the world has a lot different needs, and we can't take buses with all this junk that we need for our kids, let alone our kids. And taking car seats in and out and putting them in Ubers, that's pretty tough to do too. So less people, less transportation worries, people can have their own cars, unless you live in a city and don't want to. But not everybody wants to do that. Also, how about, has anybody been to any of our wonderful national parks out west in the summertime? You can get caught in crazy bumper-to-bumper stop-and-go traffic going through a national park where you go to see the wildlife and get away from people. That's an oxymoron. That's crazy. But it's what we're faced with today. We need to have less people. So declining population would help with many, many of these issues. It doesn't solve the issues, I know that, and in future issues of this, what I'd like very much to do is talk about some of those other problems and what we might be able to do to alleviate them. Maybe we can eliminate some, but at least we can do a lot better about them. So anyway, if we can talk in a rational way about all these issues, I think we can exchange some fun ideas. I think we can make some progress, but get off the social media. Forget Twitter. Yeah, I know it's not just individuals, it's the president. We should all get off Twitter because it doesn't help to call someone else an idiot just because they don't agree with you. Let's be rational about it. I'm the Rationalist. I thank you for your time. I hope you'll join me on a fun journey. Enjoy, and God bless America.